Ethan Hawke crouched behind the jagged remains of a shattered wall, his weathered fingers brushing the cold steel of his rifle. The desolate landscape stretched out before him, a barren wasteland pockmarked by craters and scorched earth. He squinted through the dirt-streaked visor of his helmet, scanning the horizon for any sign of movement. The distant rumble of alien machinery sent vibrations through the ground, growing louder with each passing second. They were coming. "Here they come," Ethan muttered, his voice a gravelly whisper. His squad, 5 soldiers strong, tightened their grips on their weapons. The air crackled with tension as they waited for the inevitable clash. These weren't ordinary soldiers. They were survivors, each one forged in the fires of countless battles, united by a shared purpose: to defend humanity at all costs. On the other side of the battlefield, Zeltar, the alien commander, stood tall and imposing, his bioluminescent eyes glowing with a predatory gleam. The alien forces advanced in tight formation, their energy shields shimmering with a sickly green hue. Zeltar's laughter, cold and mocking, echoed across the battlefield. He raised a hand, signaling his troops to halt. "So, these are the famed human warriors?" Zeltar sneered, his voice amplified by the translation device embedded in his armor. "You bring outdated firearms to face the might of the Xanther Empire? How quaint!" Ethan's jaw tightened, but he remained silent, his focus unwavering. He knew what was at stake. This wasn't just another skirmish. It was a fight for survival. The Xanther had invaded Earth's colonies, systematically eradicating any resistance. This outpost was one of the last strongholds, and Ethan wasn't about to let it fall. "They think we're finished," whispered Sergeant Mason, one of Ethan's closest comrades, his voice laced with tension. "They have no idea what's coming." Ethan nodded, his gaze locked on the approaching aliens. "Let them laugh," he replied, his voice low but resolute. "They won't be laughing for long." As the aliens moved within range, Ethan and his team prepared for the ambush. The plan was simple, brutal, and effective: catch the enemy off guard and hit them hard where they least expected it. The humans' weapons, though seemingly archaic, had been retrofitted with cutting-edge magnetic accelerators, a last-ditch effort by Earth's engineers to level the playing field. Zeltar's laughter abruptly ceased as the first shot rang out, a sharp crack that reverberated through the air. The bullet, propelled by advanced human ingenuity, sliced through the alien's energy shield like a knife through butter, striking down a soldier in mid-stride. For a heartbeat, silence fell across the battlefield as both sides processed what had just happened. "Impossible!" Zeltar hissed, his voice trembling with a mix of rage and disbelief. "Their weapons should be useless." But the humans weren't done. Ethan's squad unleashed a volley of fire, each shot finding its mark with deadly precision. The aliens faltered, their once impenetrable shields now flickering under the relentless assault. Zeltar's confidence wavered, his earlier arrogance replaced by a dawning realization: he had underestimated the humans. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest as he squeezed the trigger again, each shot fueled by a fierce determination to protect his people. This was their moment, their chance to turn the tide. And they would make every bullet count. The chapter ended with the battlefield engulfed in chaos, the once laughing alien commander now scrambling to regain control. Ethan's voice cut through the din, steady and unyielding, a beacon of hope amidst the storm. "Keep firing," he ordered, his voice carrying the weight of all that had been lost, and all that could still be saved. "Show them what humanity is made of." And so they did. The battlefield was a cauldron of chaos, with energy bolts and bullets crisscrossing the air in a deadly exchange. Ethan Hawke moved with practiced precision, his rifle barking out lethal shots as he directed his squad from cover to cover. The initial shock of the human counterattack had given them a crucial advantage, but he knew it wouldn't last. The aliens were regrouping, and their sheer numbers threatened to overwhelm the outpost. "Stay sharp," Ethan called out, his voice cutting through the roar of battle. "We've rattled them, but they'll be coming at us harder now." Sergeant Mason ducked behind a piece of debris, his face streaked with sweat and dirt. "We've got to push forward, Ethan. If we can take out their command posts, we might just break their resolve." Ethan nodded, eyes narrowing as he scanned the field for the alien commander. Zeltar had retreated to the rear lines, his aura of invincibility shattered by the humans' unexpected firepower. But Ethan knew Zeltar wouldn't flee. He was too proud, too invested in the Xanthor's conquest of Earth. He would regroup and counterattack with ruthless efficiency. "We take out Zeltar," Ethan agreed, a steely resolve in his voice. "Without him, they'll lose cohesion." The plan was risky, bordering on reckless, but Ethan knew it was their best shot. He quickly relayed the strategy to his squad, each soldier nodding in grim determination. There was no room for doubt. They either succeeded, or they were finished. As they advanced, the air grew thick with the smell of ozone and burning metal. Ethan's senses were heightened, every detail sharpening in the heat of battle. He could hear the whir of alien drones overhead, see the flicker of energy shields on the periphery of his vision. His heartbeat pounded in his ears, a relentless drumbeat driving him forward. The squad moved as one, a well-oiled machine honed by years of combat. They pressed the attack, each step bringing them closer to Zeltar's position. The alien forces responded with ferocity, but their shots became more erratic, their formations less disciplined. The human strategy was working. Zeltar's command structure was beginning to fracture. Finally they spotted him, Zeltar, flanked by his elite guards, barking orders as he tried to rally his troops. Ethan raised his rifle, lining up a shot through the chaos. Time seemed to slow as he exhaled, his finger tightening on the trigger. But just as he was about to fire, a surge of alien soldiers broke through their defenses, forcing Ethan and his squad to scatter. The shot went wide, and Zeltar turned, locking eyes with Ethan across the battlefield. For a brief moment, the world narrowed to just the two of them, human and alien, predator and prey. Zeltar's expression twisted into a snarl, and he raised his arm, a blade of crackling energy extending from his wrist. With a roar, he charged, and Ethan knew this was it. Their final confrontation was inevitable. Ethan braced himself as Zeltar charged, the alien's energy blade humming with lethal intent. The battlefield seemed to fade into the background, leaving only the two of them locked in a deadly dance. The air crackled with tension, every step drawing them closer to the inevitable clash. Zeltar's speed was astonishing. In a heartbeat, he closed the distance, the blade arcing toward Ethan's head. Ethan reacted instinctively, raising his rifle to block the blow. The force of the impact sent a jolt through his arms, but he held firm, gritting his teeth as he pushed back against the alien's superior strength. "You humans!" Zeltar hissed, his voice dripping with contempt. "So weak, so fragile. And yet you continue to resist. Why?" Ethan locked eyes with the alien commander, seeing the disdain etched into his alien features. "Because we have something worth fighting for." Ethan shot back, shoving Zeltar away and swinging his rifle around to fire. The blast missed by inches as Zeltar twisted to the side, retaliating with a swift strike aimed at Ethan's midsection. Ethan barely dodged, the blade grazing his armor and sending a spray of sparks into the air. The heat was intense, searing through the material and filling the air with the acrid scent of burning metal. Zeltar pressed the attack, relentless in his pursuit. Ethan was forced to give ground, each step back bringing him closer to the crumbling remains of a destroyed barricade. He needed to find an opening, a weakness in Zeltar's defense, but the alien commander's skill was unmatched. Every strike was precise, calculated to exploit any mistake Ethan might make. But Ethan was no stranger to combat. He had survived countless battles against impossible odds, and he wasn't about to let this one be his last. As he ducked under another swing, he noticed a slight hesitation in Zeltar's movements, a fraction of a second where the alien's balance wavered after each strike. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Drawing on his last reserves of strength, Ethan made his move. He feinted to the left, drawing Zeltar's blade in that direction, then pivoted sharply to the right, bringing his rifle up in a fluid motion. The butt of the gun connected with Zeltar's jaw, sending the alien staggering back with a snarl of pain. "Is that all you've got?" Ethan taunted, trying to keep the alien off balance. He could feel the tide turning, the advantage slipping in his favor. But Zeltar was far from defeated. With a roar, Zeltar lunged, abandoning finesse for raw power. Ethan barely had time to react, the alien's blade slicing through his rifle and cutting a deep gash into his side. Pain flared through Ethan's body, but he didn't falter. He reached for his sidearm, gritting his teeth against the agony as he fired point-blank into Zeltar's chest. The alien's armor absorbed most of the impact, but the force was enough to knock Zeltar back, his eyes wide with shock. Ethan pressed his advantage, advancing despite the pain, determined to finish the fight. Ethan's breath came in ragged gasps as he squared off with Zeltar, both warriors battered and bloodied. The alien commander's eyes gleamed with a mix of fury and respect, emotions that were foreign to his kind. Ethan could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him, the entire battle hinging on the next few seconds. "You fight well, human," Zeltar growled, his voice thick with grudging admiration. "But this ends now." Ethan didn't respond with words. He knew the time for talking had passed. Instead, he tightened his grip on his sidearm, feeling the comforting weight of it in his hand. His side throbbed where Zeltar's blade had cut deep, but he forced the pain aside, focusing on the task at hand. Zeltar charged again, but this time, Ethan was ready. He sidestepped the first strike, narrowly avoiding the deadly arc of the energy blade, and fired a shot that grazed Zeltar's shoulder. The alien snarled in pain, but didn't falter. They circled each other, each waiting for the other to make a mistake. In the distance, Ethan could hear the sounds of battle, explosions, gunfire, the cries of the wounded. But here, in this moment, there was only the two of them, locked in a battle that would decide not just their fates, but the fate of everyone depending on them. With a sudden, calculated move, Ethan lunged forward, aiming for Zeltar's exposed flank. The alien twisted at the last moment, deflecting the blow, but not before Ethan's blade sliced through a weak point in his armor. Zeltar let out a roar of pain, staggering back, his hand clutching the wound. Seeing his opportunity, Ethan didn't hesitate. He drove forward with everything he had, unleashing a flurry of strikes and shots that pushed Zeltar to his limits. The alien's defenses began to falter, his movements slowing as the injuries took their toll. Ethan could feel the end approaching, his resolve hardening with every step. Finally, with one last desperate effort, Ethan found his opening. He feinted to the left, drawing Zeltar's defense away, and then struck with precision, burying his blade deep into the alien's chest. Zeltar's eyes widened in shock and pain as he staggered back, his energy blade clattering to the ground. Ethan watched as Zeltar crumpled to his knees, the life draining from his eyes. The alien looked up at him, a flicker of something almost like respect in his gaze. "You were stronger than I'd believed," Zeltar rasped, his voice weakening. Ethan knelt beside him, his own exhaustion catching up with him. "We fight for more than just ourselves," he said quietly. "That's what makes us strong." Zeltar's gaze faltered, and with a final, shuddering breath, he collapsed lifeless. Ethan watched him for a moment longer, then slowly rose to his feet. The battle was over, but the war was far from won. He turned, looking out over the battlefield, where his comrades were still fighting, still holding the line. He knew what he had to do. With renewed determination, Ethan moved forward, ready to face whatever came next. Victory was within reach, but the cost had been high. He only hoped it had been worth it.